In our panel, syndicated columnist George Will, Leslie Marshall, syndicated talk radio host, and Charles Hurt, political columnist for the Washington Times. You heard the historical references for the Democratic Party, where it stands now. George, your thoughts?
Hysteria is overwhelming Democrats, like that staffer who said climate change is going to kill her in the next 10 years or so. Look, Hillary Clinton is a historically untalented politician, and she won the popular vote. Republicans have lost the popular vote in 6 of the last 7 elections, so they're not an irresistible juggernaut. Our political parties are amazingly supple market mechanisms, and they adjust very fast. 1964, the Goldwater debacle, the Republicans lose 44 states. The Goldwater candidacy gets less than 40% of the votes, and everyone said they're going to disappear. They won 5 of the next 6 presidential elections. So it's a little premature to write the obituaries for the world's oldest political party, which the Democratic Party is.
Although there was some parts that just did not hear what was happening, obviously, Leslie. I talked to Senator Jim Webb as he was getting ready to run for president, and this is part of that interview.
Who would be the representative party for the working people in the country? And that has been the traditional role of the Democratic Party. The people who have no voice in the corridors of power could always count on the Democratic Party to be talking about those issues, economic fairness issues particularly.
You say that Democrats could do a better job with white working people, but you concede in recent years that particular group has gone to the GOP.
I totally agree. They have. This is a values-centered culture. This is a culture that does not envy wealth. It's a culture that's very heavy on personal honor, military service.
It's like they just didn't listen to him at all.
You know, what's interesting is Hillary didn't listen to her husband. If you remember, Bill Clinton warned about disenfranchised white voters years ago, and we all know it's the economy, stupid, economy 101. And one of the things that my candidate, and I'm still in the anger denial phase, I'm moving forward though, one of the things she didn't do was address the economic woes of the nation, which is the working class, the middle class, not visiting Wisconsin as an example, and not putting forth, I mean, Democrats are the party of unions, and look at those workers and look at the demographics of those workers among the working class. She wasn't speaking to them. She wasn't giving a plan. How are we going to bring jobs back? Donald Trump spoke about jobs. We saw in the polls, although we don't want to look to those much, that he was much stronger with regard to the economy because of not only his business background, but what he was saying to the people as he was campaigning all along. And that's what people are most concerned about, is the economy, is jobs, is their bottom line. And that wasn't addressed.
How does he take that and turn it to governing?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, and you know it's going to be an uphill battle because, of course, obviously his campaign was very much a populist one. He's going to have to work with Republicans, conservatives in Congress, and which I don't think is a bad way to go. But and I think good results can come of that. But you know, the revolution that sort of you know, catapulted the Republican Party through what it's been through over the past 18 months, I feel like is still waiting to happen inside the Democratic Party, because and with all these WikiLeaks and all this kind of stuff that we're seeing, just how much the system worked behind the scenes to make sure Hillary Clinton got the nomination. I think that there's going to be hell to pay for that going forward.
I want to turn to the Wall Street Journal has an interview with Donald Trump, the president-elect, in which he says that after conferring with President Obama, he would consider leaving in place certain parts of the Affordable Care Act, indication of possible compromise after a campaign in which he pledged repeatedly to repeal the 2010 health law. On health care, Mr. Trump said a big reason for his shift from his call for all-out repeal was that Thursday meeting at the White House with the president, who he said suggested areas of the Affordable Care Act to preserve. I told him I will look at his suggestions out of respect. I will do that. Either Obamacare will be amended or repealed and replaced, Mr. Trump said. Now, here's what Paul Ryan said last night on this show.
Obamacare is failing, so it has to get replaced quickly. That's clearly high on our list.
You all had passed a bill to repeal and replace. It got vetoed by President Obama. But it was the replace part that we never had a sense that Republicans were singing from the same sheet of music on what it looked like.
We did act. So that was what our Better Way agenda was about. So 247 House Republicans all agreed and signed up for a full replacement plan. Donald and I spoke about this today. We're on the same page on these things, and it resembles exactly the kinds of reforms that he was talking about.
George, if you look on the website, the Better Way plan does say our plan gives you more control, more choices, and our plan makes sure that you never have to worry about being turned away or having your coverage taken away, regardless of age, income, medical conditions, or circumstances. It goes on, but the point being here is it's in every replace option that the Republicans currently have. So this isn't necessarily a shift for Donald Trump, is it?
No. Donald Trump is acknowledging, it seems to me, a change in the national ethic. To some extent, Barack Obama propelled this. To some extent, he just took advantage of it. But the American people have decided that everyone ought to have health insurance. And whatever comes next is going to, it can do it without a mandate, can do it with premium support, but everyone's going to have it. 125 years ago, medicine was too small a part of our economy to appear in national income statistics. People were born at home, they died at home, and all medicine could do is make you comfortable while nature healed you or killed you. Today, we have this amazingly competent medicine, 18% of our economy. Our healthcare sector is larger than all but 5 national economies in the world, and people feel very much as though they have a piece of this.
Leslie, you think he's shifting, changing, even though it's kind of part of the plans they had on the table?
Well, I expected this, and I think, honestly, candidates, and when they become elected, do it on both sides in whatever office, whatever level, state or federal. One of the things that I looked at are, well, what are the experts saying that crunch the numbers that are nonpartisan? And what they're saying is some of the problems Republicans are going to have are some of the problems that Democrats have with Obamacare, which is finances, which is transition. And you're looking at, what, millions of people, and millions could be affected negatively and left off. And in addition, the pre-existing conditions, which obviously they address. I don't feel this is a replacement. I feel it's an amendment with a name change. And sometimes people might say, well, that's just semantics, and that's all you need, obviously, in politics. Like you said, this is not Donald Trump's new way. This is, in a sense, Paul Ryan's, who, interestingly enough, just the other day, if you heard him speak, he said, we're going to make amendments to. He said we're going to make amendments to, and then he said we're going to repeal, we're going to replace.
Yeah.
So once again, this is an amended Obamacare plan, in my opinion.
Charlie?
Nobody more than you, George, have talked about over the years the waning power of Congress. And what I hope to see out of this is a contentious relationship between the Republicans in Congress and the Republican in the White House, and let them fight it out, and let the Republicans on Capitol Hill be the conservative bulwark to try to make some sense out of that. And if Donald Trump is going to negotiate with somebody, I'd like him to be negotiating with the Republicans. I think it might work out better.
He did, though, say in this article that he was not going to move forward, or didn't think he was going to move forward with a special prosecutor. Said he's thinking about many other things.
Yeah, well, that's the last thing he needs is something from the campaign hanging over him. Just one more thing. If you get rid of the mandate, and if you replace it with essentially a voucher, that is health savings accounts, and if you have premium support to let people go into the market and buy what they want, that's not changing the name of Obamacare. That's fundamentally altering.
Yeah.
Yes.
And changing over over state lines to increase competition. All right, next up, we'll have many more days of dealing with the logistics of health care. Next up, the Friday lightning round. Back with the panel. George, your thoughts?
Well, speculation is enormous fun. We've heard, for example, the speculation of Kelly Ayotte, senator just defeated in New Hampshire to be Secretary of Defense. She's good defense credentials. She's a great friend of Lindsey Graham and John McCain, the three amigos on the subject. However, that is the hardest management job in the Western world. Inter-service rivalries, procurement process, getting 20-year development of weapon systems to match threats not even on the horizon yet. She was Attorney General of New Hampshire. She'd make a wonderful Attorney General for a Department of Justice that has, through its lackadaisical approach to the IRS scandal and other matters forfeited the confidence of a lot of Americans.
Well, it seems like Donald Trump, at least through the campaign, valued loyalty the most. And somebody like Kelly Ayotte, who did not support him, lost her seat in New Hampshire. Perhaps because of that, we saw other candidates who did. What about others who maybe are outside? Do you get a sense that there might be some surprise picks here?
No. I don't think so. I think just looking at Trump, I think really when he's angry with you, forget it. You're off the list. And when, you know, you've helped him or you've supported him, like Rudy Giuliani, he loves you and you're going to have a place. Three of the names that bothered me and should, I think, bother people that voted for him because he wasn't a Washington guy, because he wasn't a politician, because he wasn't an inside the Beltway establishment person, Newt Gingrich, Jeff Sessions, Bob Corker. These are all establishment people. So I'm curious if a lot more names like that, and even these names will make some people feel like they'd been had, if you will. But I am encouraged to see at least one female in the lineup.
Well, I think there'll be more when push comes to shove. But you have to run the government, you have to have some people who are not all from the outside. You have to have somebody who knows where the skeletons are buried.
Well, and I think that, you know, we're seeing a scramble largely because nobody thought that he was going to win, and I think even, you know, a lot of people on his own campaign didn't think that, you know, they believed the prevailing argument that he was not going to win. So there's a scramble right now, but I would actually, though, be surprised if he doesn't reach out and pick people that haven't necessarily been loyal to him, simply because he really does have to sort of close that gap. It's more important to him to close that gap than it is for Kelly Ayotte.
General Jack Keane, never know, he could be in that mix. Might as well keep throwing out names, right? George, lightning round. Winners and losers for the cycle, for the election cycle.
Winner is the Federalist Society, a national network of law students, law professors, and lawyers of conservative disposition, asked to provide a list along with the Heritage Foundation. They gave a list to Mr. Trump. The one thing we know he has to do, and do soon, is replace the Antonin Scalia, fill that seat, and he's going to do it probably from a list they provided. The big loser, obviously, was Barack Obama, who said over and over again, "My legacy is on the ballot." Hillary Clinton says, "I promise continuity with Barack Obama," and the public said emphatically, "No thanks."
All right, Leslie, winner and loser.
Okay, don't faint and just hear me out, all right? Winner Hillary Clinton, because she was the first woman on a major ticket to run for the presidency, and I think some of those little girls that I have seen online writing in the chalk may be our president someday. I am hopeful for that for my daughter and for the future. Losers, I think, are the people that stayed home, especially Bernie or bus types that were, you know, wanting certain things, you know, very heavy into climate change. They wanted that free tuition, and they wanted a break with their student loans. And maybe now they're going to have to go live in their parents' basements for real.
Winner is Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who for the first time has a Republican House, Republican Senate, and a Republican in the White House. And people owe him a huge debt of gratitude, because if he had not held up Merrick Garland, it would not have made the Supreme Court nominee such an important issue in this election, and those Republicans would not have come back.
And quickly, loser?
Loser, Bernie Sanders, because he blew it. I mean, he had it and he blew it.
Next up on this Veterans Day, the oldest survivor of Pearl Harbor.